I'm Jonah Levine, and I'm the Vice President of Education of the Federation of Students. Every single year, the Federation of Students executive team should be asking themselves, how can we best be responsive and responsible to our students, to our constituents? This is something that I would encourage not only the VP Education to ask of themselves, but also them to ask of their entire team. We are here to serve, empower, and represent all the undergraduate students at the University of Waterloo. And we should be changing the ways that we do that from year to year, from decade to decade, to be most responsive to our students' changing attitudes and their changing needs. That's a challenge that has existed with us through all 4 decades of our existence. It will exist in the next year and will exist in the next several decades as well. So I encourage you to ask yourselves that question. How can we be responsive? How can we be responsible? How can we be flexible to students' needs? I was particularly surprised by the degree to which I was expected to be an expert on all things post-secondary education. Students came to me for counseling. I had to deal with decision makers, provincial government decision makers in the university, and I had to present myself as someone who was an expert in the field of post-secondary education. And realistically, when you come into the job, you're not going to be an expert in almost all cases. So to a large degree, I was flying by the seat of my pants. There's an old saying that often helped me get through the first part of my term: fake it till you make it. So you have to do your best to make it seem like you're knowledgeable in your area, without being misrepresenting anything, and in that time learn as much as you can and gain from that experience. If I could have done one thing differently, I would have gone to the Vice President of Education, my predecessor, earlier on, before I took office, slightly after I won the election, and talked to them about building a strong volunteer base. The breadth of stuff that you do in this job is very wide, and it's going to take a lot of volunteer effort to get everything done as you'll want to have it done. And things are going to fall off by the side of the road if you can't put together a strong volunteer base as early as possible. So I encourage you to come speak to me. Speak to me shortly after you win the election, and then we can talk about strategies that have worked for me, strategies that haven't worked for me, and your strategy for building your volunteer base. Well, I purposefully spent a lot of my year being internally focused, seeing how I could ensure the quality and affordability of post-secondary education here at UW. I think it's going to be incumbent upon the next VP Education to take a look at what they can do to be externally focused and achieve the similar goals at the provincial government level. We have an opportunity with John Malloy becoming the Minister of Training Colleges and Universities. He's the Kitchener Centre MPP. We will have a great deal of access, or at least an opportunity to have that access in the coming year, and in fact the coming 3 years. So I encourage the incumbent to consider taking a leadership role within the Ontario Undergraduate Student Alliance, to consider, if not doing that, building a strong relationship with John Malloy and his staff. This is the person who will have a lot of decision-making power when it comes to the quality and affordability of post-secondary education. That's something that the VP Education is charged with securing. So I encourage you to make that relationship with John Malloy, because you're going to have a lot greater access than I may have in my year. Early on in my term, I took a look at how the VP Education does their job and some of the processes, committees that they chair or that help them do their work, and I have endeavored to change some of those. One is a change to the way that academic lobbyists or advocates throughout campus come together or don't come together right now and set an agenda. We're developing a body of students that will come together and set a broad semesterly or annual agenda for academic lobbying goals and the various committees that students sit on. So I encourage you to take up that new body and provide leadership on it. We're also taking a look at sort of spinning off part of the VP Education's job when it comes to liaising with the Cooperative Education Career Services Department. There's going to hopefully be a new co-op commissioner, or whatever the name is going to be for that role. And I encourage you to provide a mentoring role to that person and liaise with them and encourage them to liaise with CECS. That they will help you do your job better. And I encourage you to take a look at the VP Education role yourself and see what changes you can make to it in your next year to improve the way this office works. I am the Chief Student Advocate on the Senate Undergraduate Council. That's a body at the university that is one of the last stamps of approval on changes to the academic calendar and academic programs at the University of Waterloo. I'm also the Chief Student Advocate at the Co-op Education Council. I have a role within the Ontario Undergraduate Student Alliance as one of their executives. I'm their secretary, keeper of their records. I also sit on several committees with the Canadian Alliance of Student Association, the Campaign and Events Committee, the CASA Ambassador Review Committee. There's a lot of different opportunities for you to take up leadership roles in those organizations, and I encourage you to take a look at that early on. Again, come see me in my office, or come talk to me during transition about the different roles that exist and how you can play a part in those organizations. There's also other committees that I chair within the Federation of Students. There's an advisory committee, the Education Advisory Committee, that advises me on what I should do, broadly speaking. There's the Co-op Students Council that advises me on how I should relate with the Cooperative Education Career Services Department. And of course, as I said in the answer to the previous question, there will soon be some sort of academic body that will bring together student advocates throughout the campus to set an agenda, an annual or semesterly agenda for achieving specific targeted advocacy goals.